My name is Thomas, and for the last 2 years, I've worked the late shift at a fast food drive-thru just off the highway. The job isn't impressive, but it keeps the bills paid, and I've always preferred the quiet hours after midnight. Most nights blur together, headsets buzzing, engines idling, the same orders repeating until dawn. About a month ago, something strange broke that routine. It was just after 1 a.m. when a car pulled up to the speaker. The driver sounded like any other guy, calm, polite, nothing memorable. He ordered a large double burger meal with cheese and a soda. Standard stuff. When he reached the payment window, he cracked his window just enough to slide his card through. The glass was darkly tinted, and I couldn't see his face at all. He paid, took the receipt, and then drove away. He never came to the pickup window. I stood there holding the bag waiting. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Eventually, I set the food aside. Waste happens, and I ended up eating it later. I shrugged it off. A week later, it happened again. Same voice. Same order. Same behavior. Paid at the first window. Drove off without the food. That's when I noticed the pattern. Every few nights after that, the same car showed up between 1 and 3 a.m. Always the same meal. Always paid. Always abandoned. I never saw his face. And I never questioned it. Free food during overnight shifts has a way of lowering your guard. Eventually, I started expecting him. Then one night, everything changed. The familiar voice placed the order like usual, but before pulling away, he added something else. "I hope you've been enjoying those meals, Mr. Hurley." I froze. My last name isn't on my uniform. It isn't visible to customers. I hadn't told anyone at work. I asked who he was. I demanded to know how he knew my name. He didn't answer. Instead, his engine revved, and he sped away without paying this time. The rest of my shift felt wrong. Too quiet. Too exposed. When I finally got home, I found a folded piece of paper sitting neatly on my doorstep. 3 words were written in shaky ink. "I know what you did." Below it, "You have 3 days." I stood there in the dark, realizing something had followed me home. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch with the lights on, replaying every mistake I'd ever made, searching for something, anything, that could explain the note. Nothing came to mind. I lived quietly. I worked. I went home. That was it. The next night at work, the car returned. This time, he didn't order food. He calmly asked me to grab a pen. Before I could respond, he slowly recited an address. Somewhere far outside town, a place I didn't recognize. Then he gave me instructions I'll never forget. I had 2 days to deliver $10,000. I nearly laughed at first. I didn't have that kind of money. I still don't. The moment he drove off, the fear came rushing back in full force. I considered calling the police, but doubt stopped me. No threats on record. No proof. Just a voice in the dark. I ignored him. 2 nights passed. Nothing happened. On the 3rd night, I was home watching TV when glass exploded across my living room. I dropped to the floor, convinced someone was shooting at me. When I looked up, I saw my window shattered. Something heavy had been thrown through it. This time, I called the police. They took a report. They checked the address. Nothing turned up. No suspects. No cameras. Just advice to stay alert. I stopped going to work. But it didn't matter. He already knew where I lived. That's when I remembered something else. Something from months earlier, back when I was driving rideshare late at night to make extra money. A strange encounter I'd buried. One that suddenly didn't feel random anymore. It happened after a long drive, deep past the suburbs, when I saw a car blocking the road. A couple stood in front of it, waving frantically. They warned me about a bridge ahead, claimed it had collapsed. They tried to redirect me down a narrow dirt road into the woods. I didn't listen. Later, I went back in daylight. The bridge was fine, and a sign had appeared at the dirt road's entrance that hadn't been there before. Dead end. That wasn't the worst part. As I turned back toward my car that afternoon, a scream echoed from deep in the trees. A woman's scream. And now, standing in my broken apartment, I wondered if I crossed paths with something I was never supposed to remember. That scream wasn't the first warning I'd ignored, and it wouldn't be the last. Years earlier, I worked overnight security at a warehouse complex on the edge of the city. One guard, one office, endless cameras. Most nights were silent, until one winter shift, when a single loading dock camera began triggering motion alerts, over and over again. Every time I checked the feed, nothing was there, just snow drifting under floodlights. But the alerts kept coming, always from the same corner of the frame. I went outside. No footprints, no damage, no signs of entry. Later, I heard a sound inside the building, a long scrape, like something heavy being dragged across concrete. Cameras showed empty aisles. When it happened again, louder this time, one of the camera feeds cut to static for a moment. When it came back, the angle had shifted. Someone had touched it. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped into the warehouse. The building felt different at night, too large, too quiet. As I walked between the shelves, I heard footsteps echoing a few aisles away. When I stopped, they stopped. I announced myself. No response. I never saw anyone, but I knew I wasn't alone. The rest of the shift passed without incident, yet I couldn't shake the certainty that something had been watching me from just out of sight. Maintenance never found an entry point. My supervisor didn't believe me, but I remember the sound of those footsteps. And standing in my apartment years later, dealing with a man who knew my name, I started to wonder how many times I'd been noticed without realizing it. I thought the warehouse was the worst night of my life, until I remembered the gym. My first overnight job was at a 24-hour gym in a rough part of town. Most nights were quiet. Cameras did most of the work. Around 2 a.m. one night, I noticed a man running on a treadmill in the far corner. He wasn't slowing down. Minutes passed, then more. He was barefoot. His clothes were worn, his hair tangled, and his face never changed. He stared forward like nothing else existed. When I approached, I realized the machine and floor beneath him were smeared from repeated impact. He should have stopped long ago. I shouted for him to slow down. He didn't look at me. In a flat, emotionless voice, he said, "Are you there?" I backed away and returned to the office. When I checked the cameras again, he was staring directly into the lens, still running. Then he screamed. Not words, just sound. He vanished from the gym floor and appeared seconds later in the employee hallway, standing inches from the office door. I locked it just in time as the handle rattled violently. He screamed until police arrived. When they searched the building, he was gone. No record, no footage, no explanation. I quit the next day. Now, years later, with my window broken and a stranger demanding money, I wonder if these moments were connected. If someone had been watching me across different jobs, different nights, different places, and if ignoring him was ever really an option. Because the man at the drive-thru hasn't been back yet, and that's what scares me the most.